Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Morgana Angeli, a senior at the International School of Brussels and one of the founders of Reset Revolution. Joining us today is Michaela Johnson, a senior at the International School of Zug and Luzerne. Together, we will be discussing how social media has affected our mental health. We will be looking beyond the trope of social media being only a perpetrator of negative body image and discussing the inherent yet hardly noticeable positive and negative consequences of social media. Michaela, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, I am Michaela Johnson. I am a senior at, as she said, the International School of Zug. I am 17, 18 next week. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Michaela. How do you think that social media has shaped the way we communicate and interact with ourselves and others? And how has this subsequently affected our own mental health?
I think in terms of social media, I think something that we hear very often is like, like the dopamine levels that we get and like the rush. Obviously dopamine is like I don't know if I'm getting too sciencey here, but it's like a neurotransmitter that's like related to the rewards and that sort of section of our brains, right? And so I just think I can say for me specifically, and I think the reason why I realize this is like an important topic is because I think a lot of kids in our generation have grown up with screens and like phones, tablets, iPads, televisions. I know for me, like I can say it at least for sure from the age of 9, I had like a lot going on. And I think if you constantly have that, you sort of become almost addicted to this stimulation, because it's either you're on your phone on social media watching YouTube and flipping Zoella at the time. I know she was like the big YouTuber, or you're with your friends, or you're in school. So you're constantly on this, I guess, sort of like something's always happening. And I can say for me, as I got older, and like it's not that life was perfect when you're a kid, like people go through things, and obviously, but I think as you get older and life gets a bit more serious, and your emotions are different because you're experiencing different things. And if you've sort of been in this level of like, something's always going on and you're always on this constant high, at least for most of the time, when you're older and something happens, you haven't really developed a relationship with yourself to be like, okay, this is how I deal with this emotion. And I feel like I can say with myself, obviously it's not a one way thing, it's not like a one way answer, but I definitely think that social media addiction, or not necessarily social media addiction, I wouldn't call it social media addiction, I would say it's stimulation or overstimulation addiction, has caused a lot of kids to have more mental health issues, because we don't know how to actually deal with emotions, and how to, that relationship with ourselves isn't there, because like people go to the bathroom and they're on their phone, or you're on the bus, or you're like everything, there's music playing or a podcast. And so yeah, I don't know, yeah.
So when you say overstimulation or addiction, do you mean like specific cases, or would you argue that we're all to some extent addicted to social media and overstimulated by
So I'm not qualified, but I think I would say that, yeah, I would say most people are to a certain level, um have level of addiction, I don't know if I can say that, um like, because I mean it's become like an everyday part of our lives, and it's like it's almost like, I guess, a flex to be like, look how many tabs I have on my screen, I'm so hardworking, which is great. But I mean it's hard to live without it, because our world revolves around social media and digital, and like just the media in general. um However, trying to answer your question, I think everybody has a level of addiction. Yeah, I do, because I think most people, for a lot of people, they couldn't live without Netflix for a certain period of time. I don't think that's a problem necessarily, but they couldn't live without Netflix or Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or whatever it might be. And when I say stimulation, I don't necessarily just mean screens, but I think that has a big, big plays a big role. But I think, yeah, I think it is definitely an issue.
Thank you. So before you were talking about how yourself you've been affected by it in your own personal scope and in your own mind, but how do you think that actually social media has affected the way we interact with others and the way we communicate to others?
I think in terms of, I think it's interesting because just the same, like the issues that you might have, you can also find the solutions on social media because everybody's sharing things. And I think also social media, I can say for me, makes me more sensitive to other people and their feelings because you learn so much about people and their stories and things that they're going through. And so like now, I guess when something's happening, I'm like, oh, you never know. Like you never know what, you don't know anybody or their story, you can never experience anybody else's life. So it's like, I think just being able that freedom and the vulnerability that people have on social media at times, I think it's a really good thing. And I think that's yeah, I think it's a really good thing. And I think it's helped the way we relate to each other. Yeah. Built tolerance, I'd say.
I agree with you, but I feel like to some extent, social media also with this concept of overstimulation and constant images, constant videos, like content on TikTok where just with your finger you just swipe through hours and hours of content. I feel like it makes it harder to be with people. Sometimes if it's quiet, I'll feel a little uncomfortable just because I'm so used to like constant humor, constant news, constant someone speaking or singing or something. And it's so weird. And I've been realizing it in the past couple of weeks. And I'm just like, wow, like this is taking a toll on me and my relationships with people.
Yeah. I completely agree because I was speaking to my friend about this the other day because I was like, okay, so how am I gonna like, what's the politics? I know that this is a problem. How do I sort of resolve it? And how do I like make progress? And so one of the things for me, like, I don't know if this is kind of embarrassing, but it was like, okay, so we're gonna go to the bathroom and not take, and is this TMI? I don't know. I'm gonna go to the bathroom, don't take your phone with you, or like go to the shower, don't play music. Like sit on the bus, don't listen to anything, just take the whole journey. And it was just like it at first, it was like kind of uh, like something's off. Um, but yeah, uh, we're learning more about this new phenomenon that has sort of taken over the pros and the cons. But yeah.
I think that's such a cool way to like try to be without the phone because some people are like, oh, I'm just gonna stop being on my phone for a week. And I feel like to some extent that's not healthy because through the phone we have these positive aspects where you're able to communicate with people that maybe aren't your everyday friends or you're able to see news and stuff like that, which is obviously a big part of our lives. But I think that taking away small bits of
Yeah.
things that, like when you go on a walk, don't play music or don't text your friends, just leave your phone at home, go on a walk, like enjoy the walk, not your phone, the music, or your friends. Like take that in. So I think that's a really cool way to look at it. Something else that I think has become a little more topical, especially like 2020, 2021, is like the exposure to all these social injustice issues, which obviously Reset Revolution has been posting a lot about it. But how do you think this in itself affects people's mental health? Because first we didn't really know all the bad that was happening in the world. We knew the bad in our country, in our personal life. We didn't know all of it. And do you think this takes a toll on us, or how do you think this affects us?
I 100% definitely think it takes a toll because I think it's like people would always ask the question, oh, why is the news so negative? Like, why are we only seeing the bad stories? And I guess part of that is just because negativity sells. But if all you're seeing is constantly, this is an issue that's going on in this part of the world, and this is an issue that's going on in this part of the world, I think subconsciously it's very easy to be like, the world is messed up. The world is like, there's so much negativity. When the truth is, I mean, there is a lot of problems, like, but like, it's very easy to your mind to shift to, oh, everything's bad now. And I think if you think inherently, in a sense, everything is bad, then you start to look at your own life and be like, and have like a more of a negative outlook instead of thinking more, optimistically and being like one of the things I don't know, I a period of my this year, I was extremely like just negative, and I would go into school and I'd be like, this is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. This is what's going to happen. And recently I've just started to be like, the beautiful thing about life is that you literally wake up every day, and tomorrow could have been absolutely crappy, but you genuinely have no idea what's going to happen the next day. And I think because of social media and because we're seeing all these social justice issues, and I think it's important that we are spreading awareness and we're talking about them, but I think because there isn't enough balance of this is an amazing thing that somebody's just done, and people don't share that as much because it's like, that's not that important, right? That's not a big deal. But I think like celebrating the wins is just as important as celebrating the losses. And so I think because of that, there is an imbalance in terms of, oh, the world is all bad, when it's like, no, there's good in the world, we just don't talk about it. So
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think to go back and relate this to the whole of social media, I don't think social media is an issue. I don't think it's an issue regarding body positivity or body dysmorphia. I think our approach and our relationship with social media, the overexposure, the taking our phone literally everywhere we go, the like only looking at the negatives or only being shown the negatives, I think that's where the issue lies. It's with the way we positions ourselves in relation to social media. So I think that a change that we should do for our own mental health is to like take a step back and realize that everyone's post on their stories saying of how many women get raped or how many people of color are being murdered by police. I think we need to notice that as an issue and we need to fight for that to stop being an issue. But we also have to notice the amazing things that women have accomplished, the amazing steps we've taken forward, like all these positives as well as the negatives.
yeah, exactly. I was gonna say, get on now. I was gonna say, it's not that social media is bad, it's our relationship with social media and how we see it. And I think that obviously has to do with the fact that we are genuinely the first generation to like have social media, if I can say that. Yeah, we're the first generation to have social media, and I guess we're sort of learning the ins and outs and how things are going to be different. I already have friends that are like, my kids aren't having a phone until they're like 16. I'm like, okay. But but yeah, it's definitely about balance, and that's the same thing with anything in life. I think we're just figuring it out now, which is great. But yeah, I agree especially with the yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like the first generation of everything. We're kind of like the guinea pigs, but the first generation that had alcohol, tobacco, I'm sure they smoked themselves to death just because they didn't know the limits of that specific things. And we're learning it, as we go, we're learning, okay, this is too much. I'm spending 8 hours on my phone. This is too much. I'm not living anymore. I'm living through a screen. So I think what you mentioned earlier with not taking your phone to the bathroom, not taking your phone to play music in the shower, going on a walk just for the sake of going on a walk. I think those are small things that can really make a change and change our relationship with social media for the better. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been really nice talking to you.
Okay, thank you.